weigh stations in life that are less than they could be and thus disappointing, dissatisfying, and enraging. And they deflect the responsibility for this by blaming their political opponents. That would be Republicans and conservatives. Here is Nathan, Lynchburg, Virginia. Great to have you, sir, on the EIB network. Hello.
Hey, Rush. How's it going?
Very well, sir. Thank you. I'm glad you took time to call.
Yeah, always a pleasure to listen to your show. Big fan. Hey, Rush, I wanted to ask you about China and the unholy alliance of Russia, Iran, and how these tariffs that are going to take effect tonight, I suppose, how they're going to affect our foreign policy in the future going forward, when we used to have a foreign policy of going along to get along. Now we're actually taking stands and equalizing the playing field, I think, with China. They've been stealing all of our stuff for so long and then selling it back to us much cheaper than we can make it. I'm glad for Trump, but it does cause me concern and does cause me worry when very powerful nations in another continent are united because the United States has them on a certain list.
You are speaking about who particularly, powerful nations in another continent on whose list we are. What's the danger, and who are you? You're talking about Russia and...
In the Asian continent, you've got Russia, China, North Korea, and on their west coast, Iran, that's pretty much amped up against the United States. It's almost as if they have if you see the economy of the world, America and all the allies of America are on one piece of that pie, and all of them are on the other piece. And economically, do you think it's the wisest decision for Trump to further unite the Asian storm that's out there?
Well, I don't know that Trump is uniting them. I think if you're talking about Russia and Iran, and let's throw Syria in there, and much of the Middle East, they've always been aligned. The Russians and Iran, and guess what? We used to be aligned with Iran, too, during the Obama administration. We were giving them material for nuclear weapons, nuclear power. I think if you get, the Russian bear and Iran, they're dangerous because they've got nukes, but they don't have an economy that can compete with ours. And the Chicoms don't either. Nobody does. To answer your question, I should reset the table with the explanation I gave yesterday after Trump's press conference about why he's doing what he's without it. I don't want to go into a dollars and cents and percentages explanation of the tariffs. I think the proper thing to do would be to try to explain why Trump is doing this. And why are we faced with these alliances that oppose us? And why do you think we were safer before Trump when I think it's the exact opposite? So I will try. I know you're not being critical of Trump, but you think Trump doing these tariff wars and getting these people's backs up, kind of provoking them, is putting us at greater danger. That happens to be the exact reason we became a bunch of lapdogs prior to Trump. Oh, God, we don't want the Russians to nuke us. We better not make them mad. Oh, my God, we don't want North Korea to nuke us. We better give him nuclear power. Oh, my God, we don't want the Chekhov. Oh, my God, we better be nice to the Chekhov. Oh, my God, we don't want the Iranians to put a nuke bomb in a subway. And oh, my God, we better be nice to the Iranians. That's why we're in this situation. We became apologetic for our superpower status. We began to assure everybody, don't worry, we're not bad people. We're not going to nuke you. We're not going to destroy you. We're not going to steal what you've got. In fact, here, you want a $500 billion trade imbalance with us? Fine and dandy. We'll be glad to bite the bullet. NATO, you want us to defend you against the Russian? We'll be glad to do that. You can go ahead and do whatever you want with your social welfare system because you don't have to pay any defense. We'll do it. We were trying to buy loyalty, trying to buy friendship. This was the way the United States order, the world order post-World War II was put together. It was almost like we had to make an excuse for being the world's lone superpower. That's why no American will ever be the General Secretary of the United Nations. Why? It would make more sense than anything in the world, but no, we're going to appoint somebody from little podunk country that nobody's ever heard of, simply to be fair. And if we let our back pockets get picked by the United Nations, if we're the only ones that show up in world disaster relief, if we're going to run a $500 billion trade deficit with the Chicoms, we'll do that to show the world we don't mean them any harm. We'll do that because we feel guilty of being a superpower. We'll do that so they don't nuke us. And Trump's right. After years and years and years of this, it's human nature. They lose respect. They start laughing at us. And that's why they end up loving doing deals with blowhards like John Kerry and Barack Obama. Can you believe you're the mullahs in Iran and we got this president who is eager to let you nuke up? My goodness, what a godsend. I would believe in Allah, too. If I'm in Iran and the President of the United States of America is helping me acquire nuclear technology, I'd be on that prayer rug 15 times.
Rated the #1 talk radio personality of all time, Rush Limbaugh, on the EIB network.
I will explain again how Trump is trying to reorder America's place and position in the world in the monologue segment of the next hour. Right now, we have a 13-year-old avid fan and reader of the Rush Revere Time Travel Adventures in American History book series, of course, written by me. This is Vivian. She is from Senville, Michigan, 13 years old, and it's really great to have you on the program today, Vivian. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Rush?
I couldn't be better. Could not be better since you called.
Thanks. I have a question about Rush Revere.
Test check.
If Rush Revere actually went back in time and actually helped out with like the Midnight Ride with Paul Revere and met George Washington and helped out with the Tea Party thing, why wasn't he written down as one of the American history heroes?
Why wasn't Rush Revere written about as a great hero in American history?
Yeah.
What a great question. Well, because Rush Revere is a fictional character based on me.
Yeah, I'm talking about like in the book when he comes back with Tommy and Cam in the actual time he's in. Why wasn't he written down in the book?
Oh, why didn't this? Because they were sworn to secrecy.
Oh.
They were sworn
okay.
to, and also there's something else. It comes up in the first book in Rush Revere and the Brave Pilgrims. Revere made it a point, and we had it as a philosophy writing the books. These people could not actually do anything to change history.
Oh.
So they could not be recorded as ever having been there.
Okay. I get that now.
Right.
Thank you.
This is one of the standard operating truths of time travel. If you ever do it, you can't change what happened. If you could time travel, if you could go back to when you were 10, something happened that you didn't like, so you could go back when you were 10 and change, you couldn't do that. If you did that, you would change everything that happened from that day forward to everybody that had anything to do with you. Couldn't do it. And so authors like me who engage in the time travel device understand that our characters, that time travel cannot have anything to do with altering or changing the events, nor can their time there ever be acknowledged.
Oh, okay.
It's just a device that we came up with to, rather than write dull books about history with events and dates, Rush Revere and Liberty and the gang from the school are a way of taking you, the reader, back to the events as though you are living them as a way of learning them, rather than just having the stuff recited to you as statistics and facts in the book. And I would say, Vivian, that your question indicates that it worked because you're really into this. They went back there, so why aren't they written about in history books? And that's such a great question. I'm glad you called. We'll send you some special stuff from Liberty and the Revere people if you'll hang on so we can get your address. Don't hang up.
To what the left doesn't want you to hear. Rush on the EIB Network.
America's position in the world order, as to Donald Trump, coming up after we get back. Finally, I found a cigar that tastes good. I had to go back to 1992. I dug one out of the humidor in 1992. Oh, it's an H. Upmann Sir Winston. It's a Churchill.
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Yeah, this is when they were really good. I mean, this is when they were exceptional.
Holy, come on.
H. Upmann Sir Winston. Might even be 1990, not sure, but certainly no later than 1992 if I remember my factory codes on the back of the box right. Oh, hell yes, back you knew factory codes. You knew the factory, and you knew it didn't say manufactured the El Segundo factory, February 1994. You had to know the codes that identified the factory and the dates. You could, if you knew the codes, you could put the cigars in. You also knew which were good years and which were bad. You also knew which were good factories and not the best factories. You knew all that. That's why that stuff's not on the boxes anymore. Anyway, greetings. Welcome back. Open Line Friday. Rush Limbaugh, 800-282-2882. Here, this is funny. Elizabeth Warren, Democrats are freaking over Rudy announcing he's going to go to Ukraine to do an investigation into Biden's kid and Biden's involvement in Ukraine, what all that is. They just livid about it. They're all speaking up. The latest is Pocahontas.
It is highly unethical for the president's personal lawyer to go meet with officials from a foreign government to see if they can influence somehow the upcoming presidential election. We've had enough of that. And Rudy Giuliani should just back off.
You know what's fascinating about this is that these people are convinced that it happened, even though there's no evidence. There's no evidence that Trump was colluding with the Russians. None. Zero, zilch, nada. Mueller didn't find it. Mueller didn't report it. There wasn't any. What we do know was that there was collusion between Hillary Clinton and the Russians and Fusion GPS. I know, you know this story backwards and forwards. We've also learned today, if you were not here for the first hour, we have learned today Paul Sperry has a story at Real Clear Investigations that it is entirely possible that Robert Mueller hired Christopher Steele and Fusion GPS to help him investigate during his report. Now, the Steele dossier has been demonstrated to be uncorroborated, unverified. It is a pack of lies. And the guy who wrote it has been fired by the FBI. Mueller may have rehired this guy and may have used him in his investigation to try to prove that Trump colluded with Russia. So Trump and Rudy, somebody has decided here that they're just going to ram it down these people's throats. And as Rudy said, we're not interfering in an election. We're meddling in an investigation. Which is, I happen to know that Rudy used to love James Comey, by the way. But James Comey, Rudy ran the Southern District of New York back in the late 80s, 90s. Rudy was responsible running that office when they put a lot of mafioso behind bars and entrapped them with wiretaps and so forth. And Rudy ran that office, and therefore he knew, as the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, knew everybody at DOJ. Comey was there along with Patrick Fitzgerald. He used to have the utmost respect for Comey. A lot of people in the FBI did, until all this began to happen. And there were, even back then, there were people who thought Comey was full of himself as Mr. Character and Mr. Integrity and so forth. And Rudy is openly will tell you to know what happened to James Comey. I'll tell you what happened to James Comey. Barack Obama happened to James Comey. There's no doubt in my mind, and there may be more to it than that. But anyway, this will be fun to track. Now, folks, the tariff situation with China and what this all adds up to. Let me share with you some Trump tweets today. We have lost $500 billion a year for many years on trade with China. What he means by lost $500 billion a year, that's the trade imbalance, the trade deficit. And what it means is that we are spending $500 billion a year more buying Chinese goods than they are importing our goods. And it's true, and it's been for many years, $500 billion a year for a lot of years. So Trump is putting tariffs on the import. There are three different classifications. On the first classification, which is agriculture, the tariff is 10%, raising it today to 25%. The second classification is, I forget what it is. It's not tech yet. There are no tariffs on tech, like no tariffs yet on the importation of phones made in China, like Apple's and others. But Trump is threatening that. He's just raising the tariffs on agriculture and one other classification up to 25%. He said talks with China continue in a very congenial manner. There's absolutely no need to hurry. Tariffs are now being paid to the United States by China, 25% on every $250 billion worth of goods and products. These massive payments from the Chicoms go directly to our Treasury. Tariffs will bring far more wealth to our country than even a phenomenal deal of the traditional kind. Also much easier and quicker to do. Our farmers will do better, faster, and starving nations can now be helped. Waivers on some products will be granted or go to a new source. Agriculture products from our great farmers in larger amounts than China ever did, and ship it to poor and starving countries in the form of humanitarian assistance. In the meantime, we will continue to negotiate with the Chicoms in the hopes that they do not try to redo the deal. The Chicoms have pulled out today. Didn't pull out. The talks have ended for the day. The Chicoms brought them to a screeching halt, claiming no progress. Trump tweeted that tariffs will make our country much stronger, not weaker. Just sit back and watch. In the meantime, the Chicoms should not renegotiate deals with the U.S. at the last minute. This is not the Obama administration. This is not the administration of Sleepy Joe who let China get away with murder. Okay, aside from the dollars and cents and the percentage, what does all of this mean? I went through some of this yesterday, and I really beg your indulgence here as I go through some of it again, because I think it is very important for as many people to understand this if they are going to fully understand and appreciate the Trump presidency. For example, Donald Trump has been talking about how China has been ripping us off since the mid-'90s. Whenever he would go on TV, it has been a major bugaboo of his about the stupidity of trade policy that we've had specifically with the Chicoms. So it's nothing new. It's simply Trump following through on something that he has stated for the last 25 years. Now he's president, has the ability to do something about it. It's not just the trade deals with the Chicoms, it's with everybody else. He's sick and tired of the United States basically allowing its pocket to be picked. You have to look at Donald Trump as a disruptor. Trump is unafraid to use tariffs. When you talk about conservatism, conservatives are almost required. If you're going to be a card-carrying, good conservative, you have to oppose tariffs. Tariffs are taxes, and conservatives oppose taxes. Here comes Trump imposing taxes on the importation of Chinese goods. And what Trump is doing here is forcing everybody in Washington out of the comfort zone they have been in since World War II. And I'm not exaggerating that. The post-war order that was established by the victors, that would be us and the Brits, the way the world was rearranged after World War II, with the United States as the acknowledged, demonstrable, lone superpower in the world. Over here was the Soviet Union, with whom we were allied in World War II, and then that all ended when Hitler went bye-bye and then Germany was defeated. Then they became our primary enemy. They never have been a superpower. They are a third world power with a first world military, including nukes. And that was the danger they posed. But they've never been and never will be an economic competitor. Now, Putin's trying to change all that in the energy field, primarily natural gas. And he's making deals with NATO members to deliver natural gas to them. And people like Angela Merkel in Germany are making deals against the best interests of partner members in NATO. She made a deal. Trump called her out on it. All of Europe gets its natural gas from Russia. And Putin could turn it off anytime he wants. They also are a pretty significant oil producer, but they can't keep up with us in either field. But they do have closer proximity to Europe for the delivery of natural gas. And so they are competitors in that regard. So Washington has had this structure that everybody that has been in the Washington establishment has acknowledged and sworn by and accepted ever since World War II ended. The basic structure here has had the United States as the world superpower occupying that position almost within an attitude of guilt at being the superpower. We have as policy, we have allowed our pockets to be picked, and we have made it clear that we intend nobody any harm. We are not going to use our power militarily or economically. Why has this all been allowed to happen? Contrary, the president says our leaders have been dumb and stupid. They have not been dumb and stupid. And I'm talking about every Republican president, every Democrat. The party doesn't matter here. They've all been compliant. They have been in agreement. All of Washington has been operating under an agreement that it's intrinsically understood. George Kennan put this together. He's one of the architects of this. The idea that as a superpower, we already have an unfair advantage over everybody else in the world. An unfair advantage. And so it's okay if some nations take advantage of us, because Who can blame them? You see this, by the way, acted out at our border. Who are we to stop these poor suffering people who simply want a better life? It's the same thinking. Independent. Now, some of the thinking at the border today also includes a bunch of left-wing liberalism, which wants this country destroyed, and open borders is a mechanism for it. But besides that, the humanitarian or compassion view of this, what's happening at the border is a microcosm of the way we have operated against other nations in the world economically and militarily. We have not stopped them taking advantage of us. We've let it happen. We've known it was happening. We pretty much orchestrated it to happen. This was how we assured ourselves that they would not drop their bombs on us. This is how we assured them that we didn't intend them any harm. The acknowledgement that we are the big kid on the block, the acknowledgement that we are the world's superpower, led because of political correctness and guilt and any number of other things that liberalism permeates. It led to the belief that, okay, we deserve to be paying more in NATO. It's okay if we have a $500 billion trade deficit with the Chinese because that's what it takes to have peace with the Chinese. That's what it takes to show everybody we don't mean anybody any harm. That's what it takes for us to show everybody we realize we're bigger than they are and we're not going to do anything to them. This is what it takes to keep bombs from being dropped on us. We don't want to make anybody mad at us, is the fundamental building block of foreign policy that we've always had. We don't want to make anybody mad. After 9/11, what did the State Department do? The State Department convenes a symposium. Why do they hate us? What did we do to make them kill 3,000 of us? And the conclusion is, well, we're a superpower. It's only natural nations would be afraid of us. It's only natural they would resent us. And so we got to demonstrate that they don't have to resent us. And they don't have to be afraid of us. And so we let them take advantage of it. We'll take it on the chin in trade deals, and we'll take it on the chin with NATO. This has been the operating, look, I'm simplifying this, but this has been the operating philosophy of the post-war order, with the United States at the top of the heap as a means of maintaining peace, as a way of forging good relationships with nations around the world. I don't care, Republican or Democrat, that was the operating belief system. It was created and maintained. State Department today is still structured this way. So Trump comes in. He doesn't believe any of this. He doesn't believe in being taken advantage of, and he certainly doesn't believe we're to blame for all of that's wrong in the world. He believes we're the solution. He thinks it's crazy for us to act ashamed that we are a superpower. It's crazy and wrong-headed for us to be the policemen of the world, to pay for everybody else's defense, to pay for everybody else's disaster relief, to pay for everybody else's energy. It's ridiculous, and get nothing for it, not even any gratitude. And so he's come in, he's disrupting this. This isn't going to happen. United States is going to be great again. We're going to be at the top of the heap, but we are benevolent. We don't intend anybody any harm. When the United States rebounds and does great, the rest of the world does, because we're the good guys, and we foster goodness. Our economy rising lifts every other economy that is free market based. We don't take anything that isn't ours, but we're going to stop giving away things to people that isn't theirs. I got to take a break. Just saw the clock. Back in a sec.
The Rush Limbaugh Show app. It's on the cutting edge of digital evolution.
We have added push notifications to the app. You'll get a push notification. You tap on that, and bam! You are taken right to the beginning of the program.
Download it free at the App Store or Google Play. Then upgrade to Rush 24/7 for full member benefits.
You're listening to the EIB Network.
So Trump is looking at all this, as he always has. He says, this makes no sense. Our trade policy, this world order with the United States not behaving as we have earned, makes no sense. It makes no economic sense. It makes no military sense. It is weakening us. And in some places, it makes us a laughing stock that we are so easily taken advantage of. So he's blowing it all up. He's disrupting it. Rewriting trade deals, rewriting participatory deals such as NATO and so forth. And these career people in Washington to whom this has been a way of life and a belief system that is appreciated and to which they're totally devoted, they're disrupted. They're out of their gourds over this. This just isn't the way we've always done it. This guy is dangerous. He's going to make the Chi-Coms mad. He's going to make the Iranians mad. He's going to make the Russians mad. Whatever. This has been the operation.
Copy that.
Don't make anybody mad. We don't want them to nuke us. Don't make anybody mad. We don't want them to harm us. Don't make anybody. We can't lord our power over. Now, this is not to say that when our agents get together with agents of a foreign country, we don't lord it over them. I'm talking about the perception of and the reality on the ground of American policy, particularly trade policy, economic policy. We have allowed ourselves to take it on the chin as a way of showing that we understand in fairness and demonstrate we're not trying to take advantage of anybody. And Trump simply can't abide it. Doesn't make any sense to him. It's not American greatness. It's not American exceptionalism. And it's hurting us and others, not helping anybody. So that's where we are. That's what's actually happening. Now, just one more thing here before we go back to the phones, and that is, I don't know if you're familiar with this. You heard about it, you probably have. One of the co-founders of Facebook, a guy named Chris Hughes, no longer with Facebook, had this gigantic piece in the New York Times yesterday that just savaged Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. Yeah, he says Zuckerberg's a fine guy. He's a nice guy, very kind person. Used to be a good friend. Haven't seen Zuckerberg since 2017. But this is way out of control. Facebook is too big. Facebook needs to be broken up just like AT&T and Standard Oil was. Facebook needs to be broken up. Facebook, one division. WhatsApp, another division. Instagram, another division. Break them up. They're a monopoly. Nobody can compete with them. They need to be regulated. We got to break them up. Otherwise, Mark's got too much power. Mark has more power and more influence over politics than anybody has ever had. It's unfair. It's got to happen. Do it now. And what really got this guy off was this Cambridge Analytica thing. I have to tell you, Cambridge Analytica, that was the Mercers, found a way to mine the Facebook membership in a way that benefited Donald Trump. The left is out using Facebook the same way Cambridge Analytica did. They just haven't been as big and successful. But because Zuckerberg didn't stop Cambridge Analytica, and because Zuckerberg